You just don't got to force it, you know?
Yeah. We'll see. Who knows? Bring in a little
That's
bit
also
more.
what she said.
That's why I used that phrase right there. I put it up there. Someone had a swing. You knocked it out.
Yeah. Oh, swing. I like the baseball analogy. I was thinking like dunk it because I've been watching Maddie play basketball, which has been interesting and fun.
That works.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So what are you guys up to? What it's all we're mid-January now, so like making some good progress in the year. And there's been a lot of like, little things coming about. Is your January filled with video games? And if so, what you playing?
Yeah, my January's been really low key, but my February is looking to be full of crazy stuff. Not least of which with Monster Hunter Wilds around the bend.
Yes, that's late February, right? Like I still have some
28th.
Still have some room to breathe.
Yeah,
excellent.
Yeah, I'm in a similar place. I've actually been playing a lot of like Pokemon, like Scarlet and Legends.
Okay. Oh yeah,
Legends is a good game on the Switch. Yeah, on the Switch, and then Donkey Kong Country Returns HD just came out. I played it back on the Wii days. It's a good game. And then Dynasty Warriors Origins as well drops today too, which is a game I want to check out. It's apparently getting good reviews, and I haven't played a Dynasty Warriors game probably like mainline since like the PS2 days.
Like DS Dynasty Warriors like 4 or
something like that.
PS2.
Yeah. The new Origins one has definitely been getting some good reviews. And I have a friend who was just really into that series for the longest time.
Same.
I do like a good Muso every now and then. Like it's definitely not one of those like I want to play it every time one comes out, but every like 5 or 10 years is you get in the Muso mood. Mark, are you excited for Pokemon AZ then? If you like in Arceus,
I think I am more and more. Like when I first played Legends Arceus, I was like, what is this? Like the battle system is different and all that stuff. And then as I put more time in the Scarlet, then I've bounced back and forth. I'm just like, oh, there's a lot of things the Legend series does that makes Pokemon feel more dangerous, like the game.
Yeah.
Like you can die. Like there are things like I try to capture something, it doesn't work, and then something basically spears my character. I'm like, oh. So I think I am more excited now for ZNA, and I hope the series evolves and takes some lessons from it. You're about to show us something.
Oh, here we go.
Oh yeah. I was hoping to. I forgot to share this last week, but this is my favorite Christmas present that Julie got me for Christmas this year, and I've been meaning to hang it like right here, right for the podcast, because I was just admiring your beautiful setup that you got there, Mark. But this is what she got me.
Oh my gosh. I love it. Wow. You got to put a casting light on it too, as well from above.
Something.
That looks beautiful. Right under Mega Man.
Yeah, I need like a Halo,
under Mega Man, right next to Link.
There it is. There it is.
Dude, phenomenal is right. For freaking sure. What about you, Elio? I know we talked about 7.1, and do they have a date for 7.2? I'm pretty sure Chris knows exactly what it is.
Yeah, I've been basically doing a lot like Chris. And it's like we know it's either going to be March 18th, March 25th, or April 1st. It's going to be one of those 3 dates. Yeah.
When was the 7.1 date? Was that December?
7.1 release date was late November, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, November 12th.
So is that longer than 4 months?
No, so if you do 4 plus 2 weeks, which is usually the consistent. That's where it gets weird, right? Like the earliest it could be would be the 18th, the latest would be the 1st, the most likely candidate's the 25th.
Okay, cool. Yeah, setting that spread. Outside of Final Fantasy 14 stuff, you picked up anything? Played anything this week?
I've been playing a little bit more of Pokemon Go. I've been jumping back into some old stuff. Like I did like a couple rounds of Helldivers, and I want to pick up. I just picked up Warhammer 40K Space Marines, and I need to play
Space Marines 2.
Yeah,
nice. That's been one of the things. Like I see it, and I'm like the inner Gears of War fan in me. It's like, man, maybe I should check that out. Is it on sale? I guess maybe that's what I'll wait for.
No. My thing is, I've always loved Warhammer lore. I've never had the money where I could play it, so I was always one of those people who engage with it from the background. And then I really love things like wave survival and objective based missions. So basically, everything Space Marines is up my alley.
Yeah, so I played through the entirety of it. I played it single player, and I have a lot of friends that said single player is good, but when you play that campaign with friends, that's where it really shines even more. It just feels like a good video game from like the early 2000s with all kinds of modern polish though too.
Yeah.
Like it was one of the best looking games I played on modern consoles for sure. And a lot of fun. And to your point, it got me into Warhammer 40K lore, which is dangerous. Thankfully, I never made the dive and
into the miniatures.
No.
We were able to convince Chris to buy the WoW mount, so he did that before it went away. The $90 monstrosity. So
see, $90 gets you maybe like 2 figs from the store. Maybe you get a unit of Ultramarines. That's what you get for $90 with Warhammer.
Yeah. Then you got to buy the paint, and then you got to put the time in. Like, I'll take Pokemon cards. That's my thing for that.
See, my version of that is that I didn't even go down that full rabbit hole. So I've been playing Pokemon TCG Pocket, which is my light version of it.
Same. Yeah, that's probably relevant to speak, right? I mean, it's been very popular. I've been playing that too, and it's actually a pretty fun way to play the game. And they're adding trading to it too now, which is cool. Yeah.
I mean, a new set this month too, sometime in the next 2 weeks.
I managed to play it and get a lot of cards without ever giving them a dime yet. So I'm like, I can do this. I can do this.
I'm usually playing for free.
Yeah, I'm usually you in that case. This one time though, my partner is also playing it, and she's a little bit more like, it's okay to spend money. So we've been a little bit amping each other up. So we've spent a couple bucks. For sure.
At this point, I've gotten like 3 of the rarest cards in the game without spending a dime, so that's going to be real hard to convince me.
See, that's really good though. That because one of the things that we've seen a lot of stuff last year with like Nexion, where they were like behind the scenes rigging the odds, obviously in their favor, meaning it would say that the odds were this, but the odds were you're never going to get it. That was the rule, and so then they ended up getting sued. And the funniest thing, which is why I'm using funny in the more tragic way, is that the amount of money that they had to end up paying in fines literally meant nothing. Like it was like y'all made, $500 million by running this like con, and then 14 million. That's fair. That's the
price of doing business at that point.
The price. That's exactly right. That becomes the price of doing business, and that's one of the reasons why you see that kind of crap happen. And hopefully people kind of get educated and are like, well, I wouldn't, necessarily 100% trust that company unless we saw some serious, like changeover or,
the difficulty comes in what happens when you have new blood come in, right? They weren't around for that lesson. That's why you have to like get it on a systematic level. And
the same thing's also true when it's said and done with an established IP. One of the things that you see a lot of gamers get frustrated about, they're like, I love this game, I love this studio. Well, it's been 20 years. The people who made the thing that you love, it's turned over, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be bad, but that does not necessarily mean it's going to be a guaranteed hit as well.
Yeah, can't be the same. I mean, a good example of that, right, in different kind of microcosm, but is BioWare in general, but like BioWare when you look at something like Dragon Age, just like, I mean, not even just like Veilguard versus but like Dragon Age Origins versus Inquisition versus Veilguard, each of those are all different.
Massively. And I think people gravitate towards like, oh, I like this, this one. The common theme that I hear more online, and I don't know if it's truly reflective, is that they wanted it more like Origins, Dragon Age Origins, based off of its combat style and more. But each one is its own thing. Hey, Chris, welcome in. We were just kind of catching up. What are you playing, or what are you looking forward to play?
I was in the wrong call.
Did you go like last week's call?
I was early. Yeah, I was like, I don't know where they are. Showed up at like 2:50. I've been good. It was a busy week here. We sold an extra car that we had.
Hell yeah.
Because my wife's car was getting to the point where it sometimes lost power when you took right turns, which is always the sign of a quality vehicle.
Manufactured to the highest standards.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. The guy's like, is there anything wrong with it? She's like, the start stop doesn't work that well, but that doesn't really bother me. He's like,
that's what she said.
Issue. It's not the worst issue that it has. So she bought a new vehicle, but she bought it out of state. Because the one she wanted wasn't available here, and they weren't really making it anymore. So then this week we got rid of the extra less functional vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congrats on that.
Yeah. So that was our big life change this week. I've been playing through like some World of Warcraft, some Data for Azeroth goals that I have for the year. So I completed a couple zones where I have 0. If any of you haven't followed it, gosh, I'm going to find it and put a link for this video. But I have found a delightful video series from a guy called Zone Locked. If any of you have come across it, he's the new race in World of Warcraft is the Earthen, and they operate off of these like directives. They have to follow their rules, their kind of programming, as it were. And he has created an Earthen, and he is playing through old zones with the directive that he can't move on to the next zone until he's gotten everything that like he's missed from years of always playing it.
Fun.
Because they have a new mode, relatively new to people that have taken a long break from the game, called Legacy, where if you are 25 levels or more above a piece of content, you can actually, like, it just drops everything. And so kind of like Guild Wars style, like my druid can now pick up all the mail and plate pieces from old dungeons.
Cool.
Which just makes it just gets out of its own way. The idea that you like run an old dungeon on a warrior and find a druid piece of gear, and then run on your druid and find the warrior piece of gear, and that those can't exchange cosmetics is just silly. And if you like running old dungeons on a particular class, who cares? Like, why does this matter? Just get out of your own way. So it just lets people.
Well, particularly with their transport system as it is, right? Like at that point, yeah. I mean, I don't know that I'd call it an elegant solution, but it's definitely at least a solution.
Yes, without going back and rewriting it, it's good enough that now I can just add it to my kind of warband, and that's great. So I've been enjoying that. It's relaxing. It's not hard. So like my friends were like, "Oh, are you doing anything challenging in games?" No, you were just mindlessly running old content. It's the definition of like just absolute effortless.
If we were able to get Elio and Mark here every single week this year, I would consider renaming the podcast the 2.5 Beards podcast. Just saying, it's
look, I'm happy to commit to the clean shaven if that's what's necessary.
You can never you have to show it like, guys, got a pod. Why are you shaving? It's like, got a podcast. It breaks the lore
with like the shaving cream and everything straight up. That's the pre-show.
The one goal I have also, because we're just having too much fun here with that what Sheet says, is we try to get some kind of visual counter as any time that we can get that snuck in to the conversation.
There were like 17 things he just said that were perfect for That's What She Said. Effortless. Yeah. It's not that hard. Yeah.
4 inches of white stuff.
Oh, we have fun here. All right. We've got a big show to cover. There's a lot of stuff going on. Nothing of this that I had on my 2025 bingo card, but I think it's worth the discussion. So we're going to go around the table. Let's kick us off right with our little intro. Thank you guys so much for being here. We'll highlight comments and all of that along the way. Let's kick this thing into high gear. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Crystal Core Radio Podcast. Brian here, joined by Gaming Kinda, Mark late to the game, and Elio here to talk to you guys about the latest stuff all going on in video game internet lore world in this case. This week has been an interesting week. It always seems to be that when I'm starting to plan out these shows, I'm like, oh, I wonder what we're going to talk about on Friday. And it just like literally fills in to the point where we end up probably cutting a lot of different things. If we got time, we'll play 20 questions at the end, but I know Chris has a hard out, so we'll see how the show goes. Let's give it up. Let's go around. For anybody who's new around here who doesn't know who we got on the panel, we'll start with Chris.
Just Chris. There's
just Chris.
There's nothing interesting going on in my life right now. This is the highlight of my week right here, talking about games. And I say that because when you think there's something interesting going on in your life, you realize there's an opportunity for somebody worth $400 billion to make up lies more extravagant than yours and then get into an argument with somebody that has never cleaned their bedroom. And that can take place. So my life is just not interesting by comparison.
We should all be so lucky.
We should all be.
Yeah.
Mark, what's going on with you, dude?
I mean, I'm here to talk about the big Nintendo news, right? And then you guys were all talking about in the group chat. We need to talk about this other thing. I was like, what's going on there? Then I watched Asmon's video on it, and I was like, what? What in the world? So I mean, I have some thoughts on it, but I don't know, man. It just makes me feel like I did life wrong sometimes. Like I've always tried to clean my bedroom, and average life. I try not to drink too much Diet Coke. I feel like
if you've got more kids than he does, I'd say you're winning. But that's I run a whole different scorecard in terms of that.
Depends on what demographic you're talking to.
No, so I agree with all that. I'm just talking about again, the decisions I see people make that are like worth $400 billion versus the decisions I make. I'm just like, what did I do? I need to lie more? Obviously, not going to go down that path. Do I need to stop cleaning? Right? I mean, we'll find out. I'll test it on my wife this weekend. So
Lordy Almighty, this has just it's such an absurd series of circumstances, everything going on with look, when you are making, and look, Asmongold can actually be a really thoughtful individual at times, but when you are making him see like the very rational and reasonable individual in the conversation on every level, maybe you've done a little something wrong. But yeah. So,
his promise to stream on X every stream for a year. Every stream for a year. Like these platforms. Remember when Mixer was offering like $1 billion to people?
Just throwing out money.
Asmin said if he could just prove that he did what he said he did, he would just go to a platform that really isn't set up for his format at all for a year.
I mean, this entire situation is just so much self-inflicted gunshot wounds. Like, I don't understand the degree to which it's just like shooting yourself in the air. Okay. Also, hi, I'm Elio. But also, do we want to maybe explain this? Because I'm sure that some people don't maybe know.
Yeah, you want to set it up?
Elon went on Joe Rogan and said he was in the top 20 Diablo 4 players in the world, and that there was one other American, and the remaining 18 were all from Asia. And that he is the only valid Diablo 4. Thank goodness he's here to represent us for Diablo 4.
Yeah.
He then, and Joe Rogan just said, like, really, top 20? Wow. And like, just let it. Like,
I mean, look, he never dives deeper. I mean, he'll ask questions, but he just takes. Joe Rogan is always credulous, right?
He also hasn't played a video game since Quake. So
yeah, specifically because he knows how addictive they are. Yeah, yes, go ahead and continue.
You could have a guest the following week that said anybody that plays video games are idiots, and he'd go, idiots? Wow. And then and that would just get left out there. And so then he decided, like all of us gamers know, that if you're an expert at one game that's known as a time sink, obviously you're immediately good at all of the others and can also somehow find the time for them. So he is now considered one of the top Path of Exiles 2 hardcore players. But it gets and shows up on the leaderboard.
It's like, okay. It's so much stupider than that, though, because this is someone who says, I am one of the best players in the world.
Best.
Has an account that would require hundreds and literally you would have to play at least 8 hours a day every day since Path of 2 Exile launched, like to get this. I'm not even like being hyperbolic. I mean, like
24/7.
Literally mathematically, it's impossible to have this account.
That is the physical reality, the physics equation.
100 hours a week is the minimum to get into this group of people.
So you would have.
There are only 168.
Then the man streams himself playing it and cannot do the basic things. Does not understand the fundamental UI, and also has multiple instances of things being noted in his inventory as for Elon.
Yep. Like we all do.
So just to explain that,
I write those notes to myself all the time.
Yeah, Go, Brian.
So this should be nothing, right? Okay. The guy's lying about his, Path of Exile account, whatever, nothing burger. But then, someone decides to try and point this out. He gets upset. Then Asmongold covers it, and
Quinn covers it. One of the
Quinn covers it first, and then Asmongold covers
space.
Yeah, go for
and
it.
Then a bunch of people react, and naturally, as Brian has noted many times, when Asmongold reacts, Quinn's video at the time has like 800,000 views. Asmin's immediately gets 1.6 million because Asmin's just a microphone. So now there's one. So now
a black hole, like every just.
So now there's apparently like DMs going between Asmin and Elon, because
And
Elon
Elon
got his
leaks.
feelings hurt.
He leaks the DMs.
And he says something about his Asmin's video to Asmin, and Asmin's like, I don't know, you'd have to talk to my editors. And he's like, what do you mean your editors? And he's like, the people that edit my videos in trade for a portion of the revenue. It's pretty common on YouTube. And that is the gotcha moment for Elon. He's like, YouTube editors, the ones that control everything.
Yeah.
Asmin's not his own man.
It was interesting. I mean, Asmin posted a video covering. I'm sure you guys watched it.
Yeah.
I watched it yesterday, but it was interesting because I do think there was some misunderstanding to your point of like editors. Like, who did he think editors were?
Editor of the New York Times. Also, people with Adobe Premiere for just $55 a month.
Yeah,
you have your own editor.
Yeah,
it's a fundamental misunderstanding of what a YouTube editor is versus a traditional editor.
Yeah, and my favorite thing of the Asmin video is he proceeded to go on Grok and then ask Grok if it's likely that Elon Musk actually achieved that level in PoE 2. And Grok, his AI bot, said it's most likely unlikely that happened. And then asked Grok if it was unfair for Elon to take away his gaming badge on X and remove his verified badge over this dispute. And basically said, yes, it very well can seem unfair, blah, 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 blah. Like, so like the X AI bot is even kind of saying like, this seems fishy. I was just laughing.
I mean, it's funny, but it's such a perfect example of rules for thee, but not for me too, right? It's this, like, the second he feels in any way, like he's been, when people are like, this isn't, people aren't dunk on him for non-demonstrable things. This is just like things that he's saying can be proven false. It's like, what do you want? And then getting angry.
The reason for the check marks being sold is that the check marks should not be politicized.
Right.
Therefore, he took away Asmongold's check mark.
The only thing
have rules
in terms of service,
like not leaking DMs.
Yeah, the only thing that I kind of like was, and I don't know if it's officially confirmed that he did like take it away and then bring it back, which is a weird move. Like, why do it in the first place? But like, I know if I change something on my profile, whether it's the picture, the background, the header, etc., it has to go through a re-verification process, and my badge falls off for I don't know, handful of hours, half a day, maybe. Something like that, and then it comes back. And so then I was like, well, I wonder if something, changed. But if Elon did like, well, that's such a weird power move. Like, what do you? Oh no, I'm not going to have the reach on X, being the world's biggest streamer, hands down. Okay, like I guess like that doesn't feel like a punishment to me. That just feels petty.
It just feels it does, right? I mean, but the whole thing feels petty, and it's sad. That's the thing it would be. If this was a person in position of less power over an incredibly important thing like Twitter, I would be able to laugh more. But the fact that can just be like done is kind of sucks. It should be like kind of something where like,
Yeah. The thing is, the value I got out of this entire situation is there's been this thought, because he's got like 10 plus kids trying to repopulate the world. Mm-hmm. He's got billions of dollars, and he also has countless hours to game. And I've been thinking this whole time, like, well, the only thing that's keeping me from gaming is I don't have billions of dollars.
He was gaming while he was in an interview or a press conference or whatever with a German political
That was another thing. They could see the character was online and playing while he was in the middle of an interview.
They could ban him for account sharing, except that he could then purchase them and crash them into the ground. So like, you can't do anything. Is leaking DMs against X's TOS? Yes, it is explicitly stated leaking DMs without consent is against the TOS. Unless you're Elon.
Well, that's what Asmin said. He's like, I'm not going to go leak, because they're like, you should leak his DMs. And he's like,
nope,
it's his platform.
Yeah.
This is an absolute rules for thee and not for me situation playing out in real time.
Yeah. And again, to the point of Asmin seeming very reasonable beyond the TOS issues, he also was just like, listen, this is all out there. Like, I don't care what people think about this. I'm just saying this is what the experts in the field are saying, and here's my stance. let it be. I was surprised. You know what? I was impressed with how he handled it. Right. I mean, I'll say that. I mean,
absolutely.
I watch Asmin videos whenever they're about something I'm curious about, and I'll laugh at a lot what he says, and I think some of he says is counter towards the mainstream play it safe narrative, which often is something I might be interested in, but there's often times where I disagree with him too. Mm-hmm. And in this case, I was like, I think I'm fully on board with Asmin here. Like,
I don't think he takes nearly as bold of statements as he did pre-Gaza statement. I don't think, because he covered the pirate situation in Hardcore WoW, and he was really gentle about how he covered it.
Yeah. Well, it was really weird because you had like a period like 2-ish years ago where he was also being more thoughtful, and then it kind of ramped up, and then we got to the Gaza point, and then it's kind of like ramped way back down.
I think, and my personal view about that entire arc literally is tied to the passing of his mom. It's that people grieve, and they grieve in weird ways and over a long random ass period of time. And so you can see kind of that start around said time, and then also his mom being an anchor, to him. And then, like, not that it justifies, or am I celebrating what he said? I was just like, there's always a part of me that understands it, because I don't know. I guess I understand grief in such a way that it just, it plays out for everybody in different ways, even to the point where, like, I know I was grieving for like a while now, but at the time I had no idea. Like, and then it took this weird moment of time to be like, oh my gosh, this self-reflection revelation came over me in this regard. So like, that's the arc. That's how I actually kind of track it. It's like because you're right, he was getting real reflective, and then all of a sudden this, and now he's kind of bounced back a little bit more. I wouldn't say middle, because he's definitely, I think, a more right-leaning influencer, at least in terms of the current state of things. But it's been interesting to see his takes, because he just doesn't care. He's just going to tell you what he thinks. And I think that's refreshing.
When he's being thoughtful, I find him to be a very interesting person that I'm like genuinely interested in his takes. When he isn't, when he's being thoughtless, then it just becomes like uninteresting. Did that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, to be fair about the platform we're on, right? It's kind of impressive for someone who is so well known that he is known for having very thoughtful comments sometimes. Because I think when a lot of people get very big, it's usually because you just like, I guarantee I could be much more popular than I am on this stuff if I just said the things that my freaking lizard brain comes up with in the back of my head. But I try to mute myself and filter myself. I try to be a good Catholic, right? All that aside, if I let all that go, people would be shocked at the things I would say, right? And that's what people want to watch. But again, it's
right. That's the entertaining
aspect. He's entertaining, but he can be very thoughtful too, which is it's good to see.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The whole pirate PR thing, we haven't talked about that, and I know it wasn't in my show notes for it, but that whole situation this week has been like.
Did you watch the poll?
The what?
Did you watch the poll?
No, I didn't. Oh. Would you break it down for me? Because like, I literally was like, what is going on? Like, all of a sudden people are mad, but then it like.
So I don't play hardcore, because one or two people having a different read of the situation can result in a wipe in a game. And the idea that when there is a partial wipe, some people are going to live and some people aren't, would very much leave you in a position where you could be the one that pays for what could just be miscommunication. But effectively, they were in Dire Mall, and they pulled on a ramp, like where line of sight was, like they just pulled in a weird spot to me. Mm-hmm. Like it just looked like there was a lack of caution there. But I tend to play more cautious. That's why I don't play hardcore. And as it started to get sloppy, there was a lot of talk in comms. And at some point, the word run was uttered. Pirate began to run. He turned around as a mage, and he slowed things down so that everybody else could run. They tried to like recover the pool. His mana recovery tool was on cooldown, and he was pretty much out of mana. And there became a real debate of how out of mana is out of mana. And he got blamed for them dying. But the word run was called. Like, you can't uncall that. Like, once you pull the fire alarm, we all leave the building, and then we reset it and we don't go back inside. We don't try to regroup. Like, once you pull it, that's it. So, if you're in a savage raid fight and somebody says, wipe it up, we wipe it up. And that's why there's so little talking in high-end raid fights, because if somebody calls that and then half the people kind of stop DPSing intelligently, there's really no reason to recover it after that. The wipe is done. So Pirate got blamed for it, but all he did was run when they said run. Now, he is one of the classes that can be like the most cowardly about running. So like, he's never going to be the one that dies in that situation, which, you know, then play a different class if you don't like that. Like, play one of the classes that can bail.
I know nothing about this situation, so I'm commenting blind, which is always a smart idea, but that sounds like a bad call more than.
Yeah, and Chad agrees. Like, it seems like
they pulled on a ramp while he was talking about like whales dying because they weren't going to make it to the next season of eating or something. Like, it was a weird. Nobody was paying attention. It wasn't super high-end content. Nobody should have died. It was just dumb. I couldn't believe the last guy got out.
I was just kind of generally curious because I was like, I don't understand what is being, shown to me in my feed. I was like, well, hopefully Chris will have my back, and you absolutely did. Stupidity.
Yeah, you mentioned
I miss streaming. I could have made 6 hours out of that video. It's just stupid.
Okay, actually, that gives me kind of a good in for another topic we want to hit on, which is my partner was like, the Switch 2 news came out, and I was like, oh, it's like a 2-minute trailer. Okay, so cool. We'll wait for more news. And then she saw like hundreds and hundreds of videos that were all like 3 hours long about this 2 minutes, and she's like, how are they how is this?
Yeah.
So I just thought it was funny.
I get if you make something, I guess, I get if you make something about like, let's talk about what type of launch titles we might see. That could be a 10-minute video max though, right? Yeah. But there was a influx of content creators doing the grind they should do. So all the props to them. But like every night as those rumors kept coming, like this is happening. That's why I was tweeting, Brian. Yeah. Like it's going to be real funny if nothing happens, just because there's this part of me that enjoys seeing people in misery. Yeah. It did happen though, which
you mean the GTA 6 effect?
I guess, yeah. But there's 2 folks I like that talk about Nintendo stuff that are they former employees of Nintendo. I forget their names. I think one of them's Kit, maybe. They have a shared channel, and they were like, Nintendo's motto internally is surprise and delight. Right. And all these leaks coming out, they basically lost their ability to surprise. And so there's one more thing they can do. Just surprise drop the trailer. So they think that they actually were going to announce on Wednesday, hey, we're releasing a trailer. And at that point, with everything basically being out there, we're just like, you know what? We're not even going to tell them. We're just dropping it. And that's where we're at. Because they had to announce it too, where they're at right now with third-party publishers and so forth. So
yeah.
Well, and then like case manufacturers. Yep. Like D-Brand was already like, we already know how big it is.
Yep.
People, the renders.
I'm a big fan of D-Brand, but that felt really not, I don't know, not classy. I don't know. No. It just, normally I feel like D-Brand is really like good at being there to recognize like, we're here to cheer on platforms, and we're here to make your platform like its strongest, best version of itself. Like I always like D-Brand and kind of their relationship to hardware. And maybe that's just a misread. Maybe that's just giving them too much credit for marketing, but them coming out and being like, haha, we know how big it is, felt like for them to be the first one. My understanding is they were the very first ones to publish details on size. And that feels sloppy.
Yeah, I think that part of the difficulty, right, is that for the surprise stuff is that the renders and mock-ups and everything were all on the ball. So there was literally the thing we got is, yep, you're all right. This is what it is.
Yeah, I think to that point, what made it really bad is all the factory leaks that were right. Like we were getting factory leaks last week of like, this is the back of the system, this is the logo, this is the controller, and like, is this real or not? And 100% was. Then CES happened with Genki as well, the other accessory maker, and they're like, here's a 3D print. Nintendo approached them too at CES, but they didn't have an NDA with Nintendo. They were just going off of all the other, designs that are out there. Which is crazy. They said that you can get a black market Nintendo Switch 2 right now, which I don't know where you go to buy things off the black market, but there's a part of me that was like, I'd do it probably if I could get one. I've never bought off the black market before, but if any of you guys know, just let me know.
I've debated. Go ahead.
I would say the last people in the world I would ever expect to do something like a strategic leak is Nintendo, because like they are so about controlling that narrative and about that. There's no way they would ever do something like that. Or I should say it like I know, but that would be some max level conspiracy theory level insanity.
Yeah, I think if anything, it's a sign on how long the actual manufacturing has been happening. That I think Nintendo's probably serious when they say we want to make sure there's not supply issues. So they've been manufacturing for a while to make sure there's large supply at launch. And there's at a certain point where there's just so many little leaks that can happen. I mean, I assuming these are coming from folks in China at the manufacturing facilities, right? It only can go so long before something gets out. And I'm just wondering if there's usually a tighter window between that manufacturing timing and launch historically. I don't know. I'm just, pontificating.
So it depends, right? I would bet you based off of this that there's been about a 6-month lead time in between whenever they plan to launch and when the manufacturers were first getting that. And that if that is the case, it's like that's pretty normal. That's not unprecedented, but it's also like, that's a long time in today's day and age with information.
Yeah.
Now, especially once the first domino tumbles.
Now, Chemistral in chat says, when do you guys expect that we're going to either see the Switch 2 specs or the launch titles?
It's April 2nd, right? Is the direct. So give us 2 weeks of leaks before that. And that's probably the date. I mean, this is how it's going now, right?
Yeah.
Which I'm not surprised. I knew it was going to be right around the end of Q1 or start right around late March, early April was when I was expecting either release or major announcement. So that stands pretty much on what people should have expected.
Yeah, and they have in that time frame too in early April. That's when their world tour of the hardware starts too. Like Dallas has one in early April. Brian, I shared the link in our Discord. I signed up for Dallas one.
You signed up for the Dallas one?
Yeah, I figured I have more
time?
friends in Texas. Friday session at 1:45 p.m.
Arg! I should try to sign up for that. I signed up for the 11 a.m.
I mean,
we
either way,
get lunch regardless.
Yeah, we'll be close to each other if it happens, right?
For sure.
It's right in between.
Yeah.
Sweet. That sounds awesome. The in terms of launch titles, obviously they teased off Mario Kart 9. It's been a long Mario Kart 8 had a real good life. And then that and also that backwards compatibility is a thing.
Yep.
The only thing I didn't like about this, and this is again for those of you who maybe are just checking this show out and you haven't been here before, welcome in. I love Nintendo and I hate I'm frustrated in Nintendo. It's like they can do whatever and I still hand them money because I have a problem. And so I was the only disappointment that I had with the Switch 2 announcement was I was dropping my kids off at school and I got a notification that the Switch 2 trailer is up. And I'm like, okay, now I have to drive 20 minutes home so I can see what's going on a day that I had so many meetings. So I was like, well, I guess I can't live stream my reaction to it. So I ended up finally getting home, having a meeting, and then sitting down and watching the trailer, which I have to say, I'm really looking forward to being able to purchase the Switch 2. I'm hopeful that I'm going to be able to get one. You never know. Sometimes you got, buying issues. But yeah, everything about what they've shown looks like an upgrade in terms of the magnetic docking as opposed to the kind of the sliding. And the questions I have are how much internal memory does it have? Because I know on my Switches I have to have these external memory cards. Are those also going to work on the new system? Because they do say the carts for the games work on the Switch and the Switch 2. The bigger form factor looks great. The last remaining questions that I really hope that we can see, because this has a potential of being my main handheld over all the other handhelds that I've acquired over the last couple of years, is that will it connect to xCloud? Will it connect to GeForce Now? Because if it does those things on top of playing Switch games and all the different things, I don't see why I would even need to boot up anything else. It would be like I can play games locally. I can stream games that don't run natively on the Switch, but it looks like a big, beautiful screen. I'm assuming it's going to be outporting 4K on the, on the TV. And then the next thing I would just still want, even I wanted it during the Switch era, I wouldn't mind if they just made a non-screened like hooks up to your TV. It's your Switch, and you're good. Like that's something
a 2DS version of the Switch, basically.
A 2DS, right? It's like I just want this hooked up to the TV, and I'm going to use the Pro Controller, and we're good. Maybe one day. Who knows? Because that is what it is. But yeah. So back to the kind of the question. We saw Mario Kart 9. I would expect we're going to see probably a new 3D Mario. Maybe do you guys think Odyssey 2 has a high probability? I'm assuming it's a launch game because that's one of the reasons why it was rumored that it was delayed out of 2024.
They have a history of when they make, of like Super Mario, like whenever it's a new console using the title of it. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of sequels just because the Switch 2, Mario Odyssey 2,
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. I wouldn't be surprised if it is an Odyssey 2 as well. There actually have been reports and leaks saying that the Mario game is going to be a holiday launch. So similar to Odyssey was for the original Switch, same time frame, that late October, November time frame, which would be great. I mean, that team that worked on Odyssey, they haven't made a 3D game since 2017. So yeah, it's long overdue for a new 3D Mario. As well. I can't imagine. The one question I have is what do they do for Zelda? Because I can't imagine they have a brand new 3D Zelda game ready.
Wind Waker. Let's go.
That's what I was going to say. I wonder if they announced some like really impressive remasters of Wind Waker and some of the other games we're missing from the current generation of consoles. Maybe
Wind Waker, the de-bloomed edition.
Whatever it is. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if we see something like that. And then Metroid Prime 4 is being talked about. My concern with the Switch 2 is how they handle software. I totally get if like Metroid Prime 4 is an example of a cross-platform game because they already announced it and obviously would play better on the Switch 2 like they did with Breath of the Wild and the Wii U and the Switch. I don't want them to do that with too many titles because just from a strategic perspective, when you have a situation where the new 3D Mario game is going to be on both systems or the new Pokemon is going to be on both systems, you're going to run into this issue where it may work for PlayStation and Xbox, but for Nintendo, when their hardware is so core to their business, they need to give people a reason to switch over. Backward compatibility is a part of it, but they need to make sure a lot of their main hitters for the out of the gate are console exclusive, or I do worry about how the Switch 2 does long term. And that's just saying like I want good Nintendo games, so I care about how that hardware does for that platform.
What I think will be the most telling will be Gen 10 for Pokemon, because if Gen 10 Switch 2 exclusive, that I feel like that tells you everything you need to know.
Absolutely, which they probably could. Let's be honest, it's Pokemon, right? Similar to any other Nintendo addict like Brad and I, they put a new Pokemon game. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to put 40 hours into it within 2 weeks. And then I'm going to keep playing it because that's how those games work.
So, yes. Yep.
Chris, what gets you to buy the Switch 2 on launch day?
Having a launch day.
I've seen rumored and leaks that it's going to be July the 11th. I don't know if that's anywhere accurate.
Is it priced to the point where I get one, or do I just order two right out of the gate?
Well, the rumored and what I would honestly lean into in terms of that would be $400, $399 as a.
That's a safe bet.
That's a reasonable number. That would be we would purchase one.
Yeah, get two, and if I can't get it, I'll take that one.
That's actually kind of my strategy. Is like I'm just going to try to order as many as I have money in my bank account for, and just see what I can get, because
just start building a castle of Switches.
That's how I got my my
how
Xbox
many
Series
Switch
X.
2s is my mortgage payment.
Like I'm very lucky. I would my mortgage payment with taxes and escrow I think is 4 Switch 2s. So it's
this is like the drug cartels using Legos as currency. It's like just gamers are now going to everything. All transactions are done in Switch 2s.
How many Bitcoins does it take to buy?
Wow, not a lot.
Like 1.01.
I hope that July 11th date is true, because that's my birthday. So I mean, yeah, I literally told my wife if it comes out in May, that's what she's getting for her birthday. But if it comes out in July, then I could actually get her a real gift. So
a real gift. Whoa.
Yeah, not a Switch 2.
There's a little bit of tender, like a little bit of, it seems like we're holding some resentment in.
No.
Last year I asked for something that my wife said she would only get me if I didn't tell anybody, and that was because I asked for a smart scale. and it's been amazing. So people need to understand that the function of a gift is important. And so if your wife gets a Switch 2, she just needs to find the joy in whatever that is.
Yeah, my hope is to at least get 2 at launch, because then Julie and I can play, or the kids, and we can multi-TV. We have so many people
for the whole
here.
family. Stop being selfish. You got it for your birthday. It is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's what's interesting. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
I was just gonna say I'm gonna get 2 similar for my brother-in-law. He'll probably try to get 1, and that's what I did last time. I got 2 Switches, and I just gave him the other one I got.
Yeah,
it worked out. To the point about my wife using it, she's not a gamer, but what I will say, low key, she impressed me so much the other week. I used the Nintendo Switch music app, and I was just going through stuff, and I put the Dr. Mario song on, and out of nowhere, again, she's not a gamer. She just goes, "Is that Dr. Mario?" And I swear I was about to marry her again right then and there. I was so happy. I was like, at least I have this moment. But I digress. Brian, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, one of the things, with the kids that I do is that I've kind of, I don't know, put an arbitrary number. I was like, when you turn 10, one of the surprise, like it's now not a surprise because the other kids are well informed because Maddie did. I was like, I took her to the store and I let her pick out her Switch Lite. Because that's, so she's excited, got the colors she wanted, picked out a game, etc. And then I'm like, I don't know, we know the Switch 2 Lite isn't coming out day and date, but I do know that it's going to be an interesting, weird transition, like with her, like, oh yeah, now this whole new Switch is out. Well, your sister now turned 10. She got the Switch. It's like, okay, like, oh, how, that's just something.
Are we doing a hand-me-down situation, or are we
like,
doing
do we just like, it just travels?
Yes,
travels
everybody
south.
gets the exact same Switch for their 10th birthday. Like it just slowly gets worse.
Well,
like,
they're all
what
they're
you
all,
get for being born last.
Yeah.
Did you expect it to still work?
They're all stair steps, so it's not like we're talking huge gaps of time here. It's just like boom, one after the other. So it's going to be fun to see how that plays out.
You get one to Switch 2 now, just in time for them to get the last child to get the Switch 3 as it comes out. 10 years from now.
There you go.
It's going to be great. I'm actually really looking forward to it. Switch has had a long life. I've held off playing the Tears of the Kingdom because I was like, oh, people were playing it at 20 frames a second, and I was like, and then they're emulating it like on Steam Deck. At 60 frames. And I was like, man, that really does tempt me to go and do that. But I'm hoping that with Switch 2, it's got the power that it can play Tears of the Kingdom the way that it's meant to be played at a proper resolution.
Everyone talks about 4K, but honestly, 2K in most situations is enough. And secondly, I will take a solid 60 1080p over a variable 4K any day of the week.
Yeah,
every time.
I think Nintendo's art direction with the Zelda games on the Switch 2 specifically, like I don't miss them not being on 4K at all. And I think even Tears of the Kingdom, there were some moments where there were hiccups, but it was still such a good experience, man. And I think it does show you, for me at least, that like I play games at 120 frames on my PC, but I could sit there and enjoy the heck out of Tears of the Kingdom or anything else on my Switch and just be perfectly content with it. So.
I mean, FromSoft's in a similar vein, right? Where like FromSoft, they're a lot of times their texture resolutions and stuff are from like PS3 era, but their art direction's so strong that you don't even notice.
Yeah, it's true.
All right, do you guys want to talk about Ubisoft, or do we want to play around at 20 questions?
Sure. I mean, what does this say, Ubisoft, and then like pour one out for what was once a giant? They're on their way out.
Wow. Like, do you think that Assassin's Creed Shadows can turn it around if it's a good game, or is it literally just like we're just waiting until a certain date?
At best, it buys them time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be as successful as Valhalla, and Valhalla was only 4 or 5 years ago. And how many copies did Valhalla sell to? Like,
I thought it was a really good amount. Look up the.
It's sold a lot. It's sold a lot.
Over 10.
Yeah. I can't remember, but. Just given that it says 1 billion in revenue by February 2022. I don't know what that is in terms of units sold, but I mean, there's so many things wrong internally with Ubisoft. I don't think one successful game, even of that scale, will patch all the holes that's going on. So
one successful game will give them leverage in negotiations for when they sell. When they so whether it's Tencent, whatever, But frankly, no. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but you read, not just in like general news, but like you actually read people coming out of there. Everything seems to be systematically absolutely borked. So there's no way, like, even if this game's solved, right? Even if Shadows does well, there's no reason to assume the next one will, and it's just going to be the same problem, right? Until that problem's solved. And the only reason it seems like Shadows is getting the time it needs is basically because the people in charge need more negotiation chips, and if it doesn't do well, they lose all their chips. So,
Is anybody here picking up Assassin's Creed Shadows?
I haven't played Assassin's Creed since 2, so probably not.
Yeah,
I'm the Assassin's Creed guy.
Same. I didn't get into Assassin's Creed until it went with Origins and Odyssey, and then I realized those aren't the popular formats for the long-time AC fans. But yeah, I don't care enough. The only Ubisoft franchise I think I really care about right now is Rayman, and is in Division, and they don't do anything with Rayman anymore. So the Division could be something that has some value. It seems to be a strong, and man, why am I drawing a blank?
Is it Ubisoft that came out with an
massive
NFT game? Yeah. Are they the ones that came out with an NFT game last year?
Probably.
I don't remember.
Yeah, the thing is that with all of this, I've seen tons of debate going around online, and we can all have our personal view about what's caused this fall. But Ubisoft hasn't given themselves any favors. They've leaned into such hard monetization that in my mind, it's just a function of time. It's the same concept. It's the same view that I have with dailies in an MMO. They work until they don't. Yeah. Meaning, when you're excited and enjoying the game, that daily is just something extra that you're looking forward to logging in. But then after time, that high becomes harder to hit, and those dailies become the thing that actually pushes you away where you don't want to play. So it's like, it is a double-edged sword. And I think Ubisoft did everything in their power monetization-wise, keeping their games off of Steam where players are, and then ultimately just not releasing AAA games. Going out on, hey, we're going to make a quadruple A game. Great. How'd that turn out for you guys? Like, and it's just, it shows how big they were by the fact that how big their misses have been. Instead of one miss just sinking the company, they've had miss after miss after miss last year. And so even if a game was like, we sold 1 million, well, that's a loss because you spend so much time and money trying to make that game. And so it didn't translate into where you then go and see studios like Sega with Metaphor going, hey, we got 1 million. Like, this is great. Yeah. Thank you guys so much. And you're like, oh, that's what you want to hear,
I mean, with Ubisoft, the problem is they're not succeeding at the Activision model of we're selling our AAA that we're hell or high water. We've got one coming out every year, right? Like Call of Duty. And they're not succeeding on their AA market, which is effectively, let's create a somewhat smaller games, but that have a higher polish or are appealing to a specific demographic or niche. They're failing on both those ends, right? So
yeah, and it's just, they're just too big, right? With all these failures mounting up, the size and all the different development studios they have, they can't sustain themselves. And they found a winning formula, what was it, 10 years ago with that open world formula, and they put it in every single franchise they could, where if I could tell you a Ubisoft game when I go to the map, right? And it started with Far Cry, and then it went into Assassin's Creed and everything like that. And at a certain point, you're creating too much ubiquity, and you're not differentiating what you're releasing enough. And it's gonna cause issues with how you appeal to gamers and how you appeal overall to the market. So I don't wish bad things upon people, but there is a part of me that is kind of like gonna sit back and maybe have a cocktail and watch this one burn and just kind of see what happens, because they did release an NFT game, by the way. They released a Rayman NFT game at the end of last year. You know what? I take it back.
I want something apparently bad but I could never find a way to figure out how to get to it. So I think they saw the writing on the wall and went, let's just let this fade away,
Be quiet about
it. Now,
it.
Mark, out of curiosity, because this is every time I talk to a Rayman fan, there are two types. How do you feel about raving rabbits? Because are they the worst thing to have?
I've never played it. Yeah.
I only ask because the rabbits are like, some Rayman fans they think they're the worst thing that's ever happened. And then others, see Mario cross rabbits and are like,
I like those games. Those were fun. Yeah. I mean, they're essentially minions. They're the same thing. Yeah.
Yes.
And I don't have any strong feelings about the minions. I know some people that love the minions, like
That's the
love
worst.
the minions.
That was the worst Family Guy joke.
That was a Family Guy's joke?
Yeah. Harvey Weinstein has a minion. He goes, I heard you like bad guys. I'm going to need you to pull on that banana. You know what I'm saying. So bad.
I got to look it up now.
Oh, Lord, what have we done?
But it wasn't only like 7, 8, probably 10, 12 years ago when they released, what was it, Rayman Legends? And that was one of the best platformers I've ever played. Like that was
great.
It was phenomenal. And
12 years ago.
12 years ago. Yeah. I played it on the Wii U and I loved the Wii U at that point. I was like, this is the greatest system ever. I was blown away by it. I know it was on other consoles, but they dropped the ball on some of their really unique platforms. I mean, IPs. So
well, that feels like we've seen a lot of that. Like the one thing that I complain most about with Microsoft is where's Banjo-Kazooie? Yeah. Like, why haven't we seen that franchise make a return? Yeah. I would love to see some of these franchises truly come back and give them the opportunity to shine. But I think that there's obviously things at play where it's either doesn't make business sense or they don't have the team that actually wants to use that IP. They want to do something different.
I feel like we talked about this before with AAA gaming. I know, Chris, you were on the conversation, but you get to a certain point where these companies are so big and they want to make big bets, but they want that bet to be something that it doesn't have a lot of risk, right? So they're going to lean into something that's going to have microtransactions, something we could pump out on an annual or biannual basis, whatever it is, versus going in for those small titles, because those small titles aren't enough to sustain the business anymore. And they put all their efforts on releasing a brand new Call of Duty every other year or a brand new Ghost Recon every other year. There's some Ghost games that have hit it, and then there are a bunch that have crashed because, again, they don't want to make bets that big that they can't say we can monetize the heck out of it, right? And this is AAA gaming in general.
And it's true. I think we, for the longest time, we've all been frustrated by it, particularly, I say the past 5 years in particular. But I would point out that one of the cool things is that, and you're seeing this in film as well, is that a lot of the AA stuff or independent stuff is already filling those crevices. So like you talk about Banjo-Kazooie, but like Hat in Time, Yooka-Laylee, like there are a lot of things that are already taking the collectathon and running with it. You look at in the film industry, you see the blockbusters starting to fail and not work out even because they're just too safe. But then you see things like A24 like succeeding wildly, So I think there is good news on the horizon in some places.
Yeah. And we've said this before too, Brian, on the show, that like the innovation we're going to see over the next 5-6 years is going to come from the smaller developers, the indie developers, the AA developers, because they can take that risk.
Well, they have to. You have to differentiate. They can't put out hundreds of millions of dollars in textures and things like that. So where do you go? And honestly, that's where I think a lot of people are finding the fun again, finding this, aspect of like kind of getting out of this. Like, I buy every game that comes out from this franchise. I don't even think about it, to where they're like, wait a minute, I'm not getting that same satisfying feeling, but I'm finding it over here in these new avenues. And I think honestly, and I know that AI gets a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear mongering in that space, especially when it comes to games. But I do think that we might see the hybrid team that is like more teams are actually smaller, making more, AA size games, but they're utilizing these things. So you end up seeing higher quality or faster turnaround. So the time for game development goes back down, because that's actually one of the biggest problems. Like when you look at the development of Final Fantasy 4, 5, 6, etc., it's like, what was that, 1 year, 1.5 years of development cycle? Now you're looking at a 5, 6, 7 year. And who of us, like, that's the challenge.
With
I always
10x
give
the team size,
right?
Yeah.
Not in 10x the team size, but also who of us here have ever had the same job for 7 years? Like, I haven't.
I've never had a job for 7 years.
Right. There's always some kind of turnover, and that also attributes to, well, the original person thought this, and we're going to go ahead and make a different directional change, and that means all these extra knock-on problems and decisions. I know, Chris, you have a heart out, but do we want to kick off 20 questions, and you can dip if you got to, and because I at least got 2 others.
I'll have to dip. I will say on that cost thing, the filing for court revealed how much Call of Duty games cost, like this last week or two, and they're like $700 million. They're outrageously expensive, anywhere between like $450 and $700 million.
I wish I could audit that so bad.
Outrageously expensive. I think people were like, where does it go? So when you look at AI, the stuff coming out of, I don't know if you've seen some of the stuff coming out of Adobe now, but like if you draw a 2D image of like, let's say like a little guy fighting with his sword for your little side scroller game, and then you realize you want to have him turn, AI can now say, cool, I can make that an asset that I can picture from each of these angles. That's where I think AI is going to help game development.
Yeah.
That's still a human drawn piece of art.
Yeah.
But it's creating, it's like all of the kind of lower level artists in an art studio whose job would have just been to recreate the head artist's vision. It can just fill all that and instantly, like, I mean,
and those tools have existed. Like literally that's what 3D animation is, right? The interpolation between keyframes is effectively already that, right? Is a version of that.
But now AI can just plug it in. You give it a source image and it just handles it.
Like, I need you to do this with this and make it all these things. And they're like, got it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the problem becomes that people with just AI has become such a meaningless term in terms of like, are we talking about machine learning? Are we talking about, but no, I think the other interesting place will be when artists have the ability to use low-lying coding ability because they can just communicate with a language model that can like take care of small tasks. Obviously, you want to be careful about integrating all of that, but particularly if you're talking about something in Unreal with like a node system or
100%. It's going to be an interesting 2025 is going to be interesting. Lots, I think, to look forward to this year. Chris, before you do go, this is the gift that Julie got me. If you haven't seen that yet, we did it at the beginning of the show. So absolutely smashing. If you zoom in advance.
Is that AI drawn as well?
I don't know. I would assume, who knows?
A paladin?
Probably my face onto a paladin, but regardless, I'm very, very pleased with it in this case. We're going to do 20 questions for those of you who are here in chat. Feel free to play along. I will not highlight your name until after the panel here gets it, if you also get the game or if you ask some interesting questions. The panel is allowed to also say, has chat mentioned this game or other things like that? So that is up to them on how they want to play, but the rules are simple. Any yes or no question. I will do my best not to steer you guys in the right direction. I have the game in my mind. You guys, let's see if you can figure it out.
Let's fucking go.
See you next week, guys.
All right, see you, Chris.
See you, Chris. We usually start off with date ranges.
Yeah, I think usually, baby, the easiest one is to start before or after like 2000 because that cuts us down quite a bit.
Go for it.
Okay, did it release before the year 2000?
It did not.
Okay.
So we're not dealing with ColecoVision or anything like that.
Mario is missing. Damn you!
No. Did it release before the year 2010?
No.
Okay, so we're in the last 15 years then.
Okay. Okay, this is maybe so let's see, what cartridge-based systems do we exist? Because there's a Switch. I'm trying to think is there any other mainstay cartridge-based systems beyond the Switch? At
this point, the 3DS and the Switch, not including disc-based, obviously.
Let's start there just because I know he's a Nintendo fan. So was it actually, I guess we can simplify this further. Was it released on a Nintendo console?
It was not.
Okay.
Interesting. Which is tough because the Wii U didn't have a lot of third-party support.
No.
Which also makes me think it might be earlier in the 2000 aughts versus later because the Switch had a ton of third-party support. Versus more modern AAA games on PS5 and so forth.
Well, there's the benefit that at least with the PS5 and Xbox or PS4 and Xbox, those have so much crossover.
Yes, that is true. So we could assume it's between those two, right?
I got an idea. Was it a console exclusive? And by that I don't just mean like a console, like exclusive only to consoles, but to the console it was released on.
Yes.
Oh,
okay.
Now this means potentially PC, PlayStation, or Xbox then. And we're at 17 questions or 16?
You've asked 4. So you're on question number 5. You're about to be at 15.
So it was released.
Got plenty of bandwidth.
Yeah, it was released between 2010 or above, right? And it was a console exclusive. So I wonder too if it's worthwhile just taking a shot at consoles platforms.
Yeah.
Was it? I could frame this in a way that can rule it out. Was it a PlayStation platform?
No. That's 5.
Okay. Was exclusive to it. What were some like now my brain's going to like Scalebound or something. I guess
which never came out. Like I wouldn't do that to y'all. Generally, the rule is for myself, not that it's an official channel rule, is that it's a game that I have played or owned.
Okay. See, that's fair. What's some Xbox? I don't know Xbox nearly as well as the others.
You got Crackdown. You got Gears, and he's been talking about Gears lately. I saw him tweet about Gears this week. I feel like when he was talking about something.
Do we want to do genre then as a start point?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Is it a shooter?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Is it an Xbox exclusive?
It is.
All right. If it is what I think it is at this point, you need to be careful about what you tweet, Ryan.
But okay, because Gears 5 was on PC. So because that's where I played it. So
it's true.
Gears 5. Gears 4 was, and then Judgment and 3 were released before the 10s, right?
I'm looking now. Gears 3 was 2011. Judgment was 2013. Ultimate Edition was 2015. That's the remake of 1. And I think that was probably the first time it launched on PC and Xbox.
Do we want to cut them out by just asking if it's a Gears game?
Yeah, go for it.
Is it a Gears game?
It is a Gears game.
Okay.
Y'all have lots of room.
Now the fun part is trying to get it at still of which one would he be thinking of?
Well, again, if we can rule out what ones were co-launch on PC and Xbox, we can then probably whittle it down significantly between Gears 3 and Judgment Day.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure Ultimate Edition launched. No, okay. Ultimate Edition launched first on Xbox One in 2015, then on PC in 2016. And then Gears 4 was maybe the first one. This doesn't really
Gears 4 was the first day and date.
Yeah, it was.
Because that's right at that Xbox pivot.
When it was, yeah.
So it could have been the Ultimate Edition, 3, or Judgment Day. Plot twist, it's a Guilty Gear game.
It's a Gears game. Yeah. Boom, baby, got him.
Oh, man. So you got to try to plan one of those out.
That's what she said.
Got
okay.
Him. Is it the Ultimate Edition of Gears?
It is not.
Okay. Is it Gears Judgment Day?
It is not. Take it home, boys.
Is it Gears 3?
It is Gears 3. Oh man, what a fun round. Nobody officially guessed it in chat, but we did have Postum talking about Halo and Gears. Also, chat was wondering if you guys were going to differentiate between first and third party. And dadgummit, Mark, you're so right. I was trying not to give it away, but like you're talking, and I was just so joyful.
You just did that. I was like, you're either misleading me on purpose, but
that's a good play too. I could be kind of sneaky about it, but it was fun. So no Golden Stadia controllers, or I guess official, no controllers go out to viewers, but we're gonna keep this thing rolling. If anybody wants to help out, keep track of the scores and the rounds to win, and I'd love to be able to kind of summarize that up for the year at the end of the year or something like that. Might be a lot of fun. If you have games that you would like to suggest for 20 questions, you can always message me. You can always sound off in the Discord, or you can leave them here, and the panel will also be bringing in some games from time to time. But all of that being said, Mark, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitch and YouTube at Late to the Game. There's an underscore between the two and the. I've been streaming some Pokemon games, and I haven't been active on YouTube for about 6 months, but I'm planning on 2025 to be a much more active year now that I'm finally getting some things figured out from a schedule perspective with having a newborn and all that. Well, he's going to be 1 now. So a year has gone by crazy fast, but that's where I'm at. You'll see me over there probably just playing the games away and yelling at the game too, most likely.
Perfect. Elio, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me over at the Eorzean Archives over on YouTube or at our Discord, Eorzean Archives / Discord / Eorzean Archives. And yeah, I've been off for the most part for about 10 months with intermittent some things popping up, but 2025 is looking for schedules been figured out, life's been figured out. So yeah, same there. I feel that.
All right. And if you guys like what I do, you're already in the right spot here on the channel. I'm working on a kind of a big shift in terms of my content strategy, just because I've been so incredibly busy with kids activities. So you're going to see less videos, but hopefully a much higher quality production of those videos. I really do thank you guys for watching and enjoying those. If you guys enjoy these podcasts, we live stream them Friday, 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern. And we're going to continue to bring on these incredible creators as well as other guests along the way. We love that you were able to join us live. If you're watching this as a VOD, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And if you're listening to this as the MP3, awesome. You're the best. Like, whatever you need, you tell me. Let me see what I can do for you. I appreciate seeing all the downloads of the audio version of this podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll be back next week with whatever crazy stuff decides to happen. And I hope that it's not about Asmongold, because he's been in the thumbnail 2 podcasts in a row. And I don't want to set the standard that it is an Asmongold commentary podcast 2025. So do me a favor, Elon, Asmin, knock it off. Like, just stay out of the news for 1 week and we can talk about some other gaming stuff. Anyway, guys, until next time, take care.